Are the ones who gonna have to fight. We used to say, which side are you on? Which side are you on? The truth is, we're in so much debt that the only way out is revolution or war. So now the question is, people, we the people are the ones who gonna have to fight. We used to say, which side are you on? Which side are you on? The truth is, we're in so much debt that the only way out is revolution or war. So now the question is, which side are you on?
Which side are you on, boy? Which side are you on, my Lord? Which side are you on, boy? Which side are you on, my Lord?
See, before I draw the line, let me welcome you close to all the folks who knew Obama sold the people a hoax. Gave the money to suckers while our community still poor. Withdrew the troops but started another war. Colonizing, terrorizing, creating the oil crisis so they can make a killing on food and gas prices. Prisons is filling, they trying to lock up the future. Militarized borders and control of computers. Wanting stupid bumping music that ain't healthy for the shortest. Privatizing schools and policemen in the hallways. Can't be dormant, I'm awoken. Rise up, be ready. Got the family with us and we holding the shadows.
Riding the fence. Too many people be riding the fence. Yeah, you say you ready for war, but are you convinced? I'm not convinced. If you're a rider, freedom fighter, crowd excited, then let's do this. We can make one big united, middle finger to the U.S. Give me the bravest and the truest. Fuck the hippest and the coolest. We gon' spark this revolution and cross this off our to-do list. Put your foot down if you look down on this criminal system. Put your book down and get shook down like my niggas in prison. They'll be condemning and condoning their actions in one sentence. But keep your mind, choose your side. Is you a patriot or a menace to society? So riot or sit by quietly. But don't pull out your flag and try to say you gon' ride with me. You flip-flopping like hip-hop. I don't get locked in that trick box. Get got like Big and Pop. Shit's got to stop. I am the people, not the big. I repeat after Fred. So please blow my brains out if I ever forget.
I'm with the independent thinkers. I'm down with the movers and the shakers and the ex-Henny drinkers, the non-smokers, the health advocates, the non-voters, the young bloods in the hood training like soldiers. I'm on the side of the tracks with the hood gardens, the little child that don't color inside the margins. I don't ride the fence, I cultivate the street, cause if it ain't about power, it don't make sense. I've been down with Boogie Down since BDP and Brown Pride and Black Power make RPG. An OG told me choose battles wisely. In the struggle, don't forget your children and your wife. If you don't see me on the podium preaching it, every day I hope my every action is teaching it. Cause revolution is a process, it's not a speech or a panel. Don't bite off more than you can handle.
Shot City, Palestina, Venezuela, the South Bronx, baby. Yo. And yo, I still rock hard like slingshots in Palestina. Con todos los estudiantes por educación gratuita. I'm with workers uprising and the right to unionize. We ain't crossed the border, so you better legalize. I'm with La Peña del Bronx. I'm still with Victor Toro, cause gentrification is polluting my borough. So bro, never. South Bronx forever. Decolonize the block, make your neighborhood better. I ain't down with the rich, I'm more Richie Perez. Don't talk to grand juries or cooperate with feds. I'm with students, doctors, janitors, teachers. We need living wages, but they don't believe us. Monida, Barreto, Spofford, Hunts Point, my hood, I love, rejoin forces, forming our deck, BX, taking over buildings, rebel Diaz for the children.
Politics to sickness, streets express symptoms, caught up with a quickness, big business pimps them. Scholars play the simpleton, fools play with wisdom. Who will stand and fight back? Who will play the victim? Trials and tribulations, ancient generations, stolen history and outsourced innovation. Babel Tower fell, tribes are at war. The battle story's not represented in the score. The game's fixed, most of the faces and names switched. Credit stolen for art, science, religion, language, technology, philosophy, and with strangers. They paid in hatred for the knowledge of the ancients. Power in words, actions, gun swords. Aim Panthers, brown berets, young lords. Pick a side, one sickness, one cure, one love, one blood, one blood, one war.
Everything you say it works.
Well, I should be on Instagram, but I always flip my phone because I never know what's going to happen. So, and hopefully more people come on. I really think the algorithm is kicking me out a lot. But first and foremost, thank you, everybody. Peace. My name is Rosa Alicia Clemente. I live in Albany, New York. I'm a Black Puerto Rican woman. I've been an organizer, producer, independent journalist, scholar activist, and completing my PhD. I've been in the movement for a good 30 years. Wasn't born in it, but had to go to college, you know. Raised as a strong Boricua to love your family, to love, you know, todo. I mean, I was born in the Bronx in 1972, literally when hip hop was created. My mom was very intentional, making sure we saw a family all over. And then in Puerto Rico, once a month, we go to the Bronx to see the family when we moved out of the Bronx. Pero, you know, I don't even think I even knew why I was an American citizen, because in high school, I ended up living in a really small town called, well, it's a village called Elmsford, New York, super small, 7th through 12th grade. I graduated with 40 people. And that's in Westchester County, you know, and then to this day, my dad, since 1968, 69, him and my mom have had the business in the Bronx, you know. So I went to college and I went to, you know, the Hispanic Student Association, because we were still using that term back in the day, Hispanic, y después the Albany State University Black Alliance. Because when I went to Fuerza Latina, I was like loving everything, but they only spoke in Spanish. And afterwards, I was like, listen, I get it. Like, you speak Spanish, I do, I'm bilingual, I understand. But a lot of other people here don't, and they don't feel comfortable because basically what the leadership was saying is like, if you don't speak Spanish, you're not a real Hispanic, or you're not a real Boricua or Dominican. And I was like, yeah, but Spanish is the colonizer's language. So I went to the Albany State University Black Alliance meeting, and I just felt like I literally, like my body was on fire, because I was like, why don't I know any of this? And then after, I went up to the brother, Derek Westbrook, and some other brothers, And I was like, yeah, I want to be part of the SUBA, but I am not a person of African descent. And they were like, you are. Go take an intro to Puerto Rican studies class and take a class in Africana studies. And I did that. But in the intro to, Puerto Rican history, I would come home during the break and I'd be asking my parents, like, yo, why didn't I know about this? Like, I didn't know we were a colony. I didn't know that daddy's black, either pues mommy, you're a little light skinned, but both Boricuas. I didn't know I was an American citizen. I grew up in the Bronx in Westchester County. I never read the autobiography. I never even had heard of Malcolm X. So I go to college in 1990, but then the second year as a sophomore, I didn't know about the Young Lords. I didn't know about the Black Panther Party. I didn't know about the Rainbow Coalition. I didn't know about Sonia Sanchez. I didn't know about so many things, and it just lit in me. And then I joined the SUBA, and then in my junior year, I became the president. And when the election was held and I won, the next day, a Latino administrator at that time was called Minority Affairs Office. Remember, this is 1990, so some of y'all might be way younger than me, and like, I don't even Hispanic, right? And he said to me, he's like, so pick a side. Are you Black or you're Puerto Rican? And I said to him, you're supposed to be first congratulating me and then showing me leadership development. So I was like, fuck. I basically was like, fuck you. And then I went in hard. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of Latinos were hating on me. And then there was definitely some African Americans were like, yo, she's Puerto Rican. She ain't Black. Why is she the president? And then the Latinos, one of the not sororities, but some of the women of one sorority, Omega Phi Beta, basically like approached me one day and was like, you're not one of us anymore. And I was like, all right, let's go. And let me tell you, because at that time in New York State, the SUNY system, State University of New York, and CUNY, City University of New York, were on fire. There were protests every day around every imaginable thing. And I got to meet people like Richie Perez and Dr. Turner and Toni Morrison and Gwendolyn Brooks and Hakeem Adabudi and Panama Vicente Agba. And like, I'm reading about these people and I'm like, oh my God, they're on the campus. They're gonna, but also when we were a Black Student Union, we weren't just doing like parties. We would do a party every other week. But 3 days out of the week, we were having sessions. We were having speakers. We were debating issues. We were debating Zionism. Like, we brought Kwame Ture up when the campus said we couldn't. And as president, when I brought him up, it was a whole story. It's a beautiful story. I'm going to leave it for the memoir. But I almost got expelled because I said, this is a campus. You can't tell us who we can bring or who we cannot bring. And my relationship with Kwame Ture, may he rest in freedom, he would always call me, Sister Rosa, you ready for the revolution? I would say, yes, Brother Kwame. And he knew that they were trying to kick me out. And I met with him before he left for his next gig. And he's like, you do it for your ancestors. You'll be fine. And the reason I didn't get expelled was because students and professors and mentors were like, yeah, you don't want to expel her. And people always say to me, when did you come like super politicized? And I remember April 29th, 1992, after the 4 officers that killed Ronnie King were acquitted, that day, all the Black and Latino students were on campus. Now, mind you, again, 1992, there ain't no social media, there ain't no cell phones. We're using pay phones, or we're going to people's door and knocking. And we came on campus, and LA was rebelling and on fire. And I was like, I'm good. This is what I'm gonna be for the rest of my life, you know? And through that, then I would end up meeting Dr. Maita Morena Vega and Lumumba Bandeli. And if I didn't meet these two specific people, I wouldn't be the Rosa Clemente that you see here now. I ran out on Dr. Vega and I was like, please, can you mentor me? Like, I'll do anything. I'll do anything. And then my comrade Lumumba Bandeli and also my other comrade Mari Neves Agba were working with Dr. Vega at the Caribbean Cultural Center. So once I met them and then I met Mari Neves, I was like, let's go, you know, because Lumumba and Mari were kind of, they were born into the movement because of who their parents are, you know? But then I'm like meeting Richie Perez, and then I get recruited to go to Cornell. Big up Cornell today. Dr. Turner, Africana Studies, reached out to me and he's like, you need to come and get your master's here. You need to do your work on the Young Lords, but you need to talk about racial affirmations because what the Young Lords were about, and also study the counterintelligence movement, COINTELPRO. And I did that. So from 1996 to 1998, I was at Cornell and met other comrades. Jonelle, Leslie, and Joaquin, who to this day are my comrades. You know, so, but I spent 2 years at Cornell with Dr. James Turner. Y'all, like, if you don't know who Dr. Turner is, you need to, like, right now know who he is. He created the discipline of Africana Studies. He coined the term scholar activism. And any of us that went to get our master's out of Africana Studies, he was very clear. He's like, if you came to get a degree from Cornell, you don't need to be here. But if you come here to become better writers and scholars, your activists and your work is to always be in your communities, but also bring communities together and never look at somebody like down on them because they didn't go to college. And then I moved to Brooklyn, New York, joined the Malcolm X grassroots movement, and that was the wrap. I mean, the Malcolm X grassroots movement, first of all, we still here. I am not active in a minute, but all I remember is those years in Brooklyn, I was either at a meeting, a protest, or organizing every single day of my life, as well as working. And at that time, the biggest issue we were dealing with, particularly in New York, was mass incarceration, but also Giuliani and the continuous murders of Black and Brown people. And then I would meet so many elders and Ron Daniels, like Farrakhan. I mean, I look back at that time and I'm like, I was having a history lesson every day. And then I started kind of rolling as like, especially in Brooklyn, like then here is Dead Prez and then the Welfare Poets and then Mos Def and a Mumu Fresh and a La Bruja and an Asha Bandeli, a Dream Hampton. Then I'm like, I'm meeting my peers who I'm reading about in the Village Voice or rap pages. And I'm like, I can't believe I am sitting next to Dream Hampton and Asha Bandeli. I can't believe I'm listening to Chokwe Lumumba talk about the Republic of New Africa. I can't believe I know Kali Okuno. Like, fam, every day. And then I happened to live a year in Albany, New York, and I was questioning, like, why the hell am I back here? And on February 2nd in 1999, no, 1999, maybe 1998, Amadou Diallo was killed by the NYPD. He was shot 40 times. I know people think like we've seen other now so many violent police killings of our people where we've heard 50 shots, even more. But at that time, 40 shots. Also, remember that time was also when Abner Louima was sodomized. He was a Haitian that the NYPD arrested, and they sodomized him, and they almost killed him. And then also, Anthony, oh God, I'm doing a disservice to the Boricua people who lost their children. And then I joined the Justice Committee and Richie Perez, and I met Gina Arias, and again, Panama. But what happened was that the trial against the 4 officers that killed Diallo, and at that time, they would be in roving patrols and like jumping out of vans. And what they did is they like just went up on Amadou Diallo, and he was taking out his wallet to show them ID, and they shot him 40 times. Now, I was living 10 blocks from that in the Bronx, and my father's business was 2 blocks from where Diallo was shot. And I just remember, I think my father called me, maybe I called him, and he said, "Did you hear what last night? Because we heard it." And he was talking about the gunshots. And then 2 days later, over 5,000 people in New York City, all over, came right to the Bronx. But then I moved to Albany, New York. And then I had called Richie in Panama, like, yo, I got to get back to New York. Like, my relationship didn't work. I don't want to be here anymore. And then Richie calls me and he goes, they just moved the trial of the officers from the Bronx because the prosecutor, Robert Johnson, the defense attorneys of the officers argued that they wouldn't get a fair trial because of all the media. So after it happened, but those next weeks and months, that not only did 1,000 people get arrested, over 1,200 people on one day got arrested, including Susan Sarandon. That's how I met her, to indict the officers. But then they moved the trial to Albany, New York. And Richie said, that's why you're there. Go organize. And that's when I met my other comrade, Victorio. And we just, and also up here, Barbara Smith, the Black woman, third feminist, lives in Albany, and also Naomi Jaffe, who was part of the Weather Underground. So we just organized for I think it was, the trial lasted about 5 weeks. They were found out guilty. And then the next day, we got arrested. We protested that night. And then the next day, I went right to New York City with mad people. And those protests were some of the biggest ones, okay? So that's the story of who I am and what happened. And I carried that the rest of my life. So we are in very perilous times right now. I don't think people are understanding the gravity of even what just happened, what Trump said the last 3 days. So I'm just gonna bring this to the stage so y'all can see it. Let me figure this out. Okay.
Republicans have supported that President Trump is committed to signing into law during his term.
Legal experts say because of all of the Americans who don't have a passport or a readily available birth certificate, the SAVE Act would make voting harder for millions upon millions of people, including married women who have changed their last name. And the problem it purports to solve, widespread voter fraud by illegal immigrants, does not exist. A Washington Post analysis of voter fraud data compiled by the conservative Heritage Foundation think tank showed less than a handful of undocumented immigrants on average per year are alleged to have voted in recent decades. But perhaps that's irrelevant for the purposes of what Trump is calling for, because shortly after you saw the press secretary backpedaling there, President Trump made it clear he really did mean what he said about nationalizing elections.
The state is an agent for the federal government in elections. I don't know why the federal government doesn't do them anyway. Take a look at Detroit. Take a look at Pennsylvania. Take a look at Philadelphia. You go take a look at Atlanta. Look at some of the places that horrible corruption on elections. And the federal government should not allow that. The federal government should get involved.
We're joined now by Democratic Congressman Seth Magaziner of Rhode Island. He's a member of the Homeland Security Committee. Thank you, Congressman, for being with us. And you hear these different things that Trump is calling for, the administration is doing. He's saying nationalize elections. His administration seizing ballots in Fulton County from 2020, seeking voter data in so many states, and linking the Minnesota immigration action to a demand that Minnesota turn over full non-public voter data. Is this informing what Democrats are thinking about the midterm elections in November? What are you preparing for?
Well, understand what's happening here. The White House, the president, Republicans in Congress, they are panicking. They know that the American people hate the terrorists, are frustrated with the economy, don't like the fact that they've just gutted health care for millions of people. And now on immigration, on ICE, which used to be the Republicans' strongest issue, they are backpedaling because the American people do not like the chaos and the violence that they are seeing from this masked agency that ICE has become that's invading American cities. So Republicans, including the president, are worried about the midterms. And so what are they trying to do? They're trying to build the pretext to challenge election results and to interfere with lawful elections. Understand, as your data showed, there has never been any proof of widespread voter fraud in America in the last 25 years and probably much longer than that. After the 2020 election, the Trump campaign initiated like 60 lawsuits to try to allege that voter fraud had occurred. And all of those cases were thrown out of court, including by Trump-appointed judges, because the evidence just wasn't there. So this is not about trying to find evidence from 2020, because that doesn't exist. And I think on some level, they know that that doesn't exist. This is about building a pretext.
So then I'm going to leave you with this. And look, be clear on what you're about to hear. Okay? Because then after, I'm going to talk about why I believe, and then even after this interview 2 hours ago, I'm doubling down. I want Bad Bunny should not perform at the Super Bowl. Listen to what Steve Bannon says. If anybody thinks there's going to be, quote, clear elections in November, you're sadly mistaken. And even if the Republicans are scrambling, the Democratic Party, as usual, is trash. And for them, both Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer to still vote to give ICE more money if ICE does a couple reforms that aren't fucking reforms. Body cameras, we've been doing that with the NYPD and every police department in this country for 20 years. How has that worked out for us?
On an episode of his show yesterday, alleging once again that the 2020 election was stolen. Let's listen.
Listen.
You're damn right. We're going to have ICE surround the polls come November. We're not going to sit here and allow you to steal the country again. And you can whine and cry and throw your toys out of the pram all you want, but we will never again allow an election to be stolen.
Yeah, listen.
You're damn right. We're going to have.
Strategist Steve Bannon said on an episode of his show yesterday, alleging once again that the 2020 election was stolen. Let's listen.
You're damn right. We're going to have ICE surround the polls come November. We're not going to sit here and allow you to steal the country again. And you can whine and cry and throw your toys out of the pram all you want, but we will never again allow an election to be stolen.
Okay.
And if Steve Bannon...
There's nothing else to say after that. I don't even know why I'm not on the stage. Let me get on the stage. No, add to the stage and then remove that. Let me make myself a little bit bigger. Okay, I'll make sure I look at folks that are going on YouTube. I don't know. This is going to be behind me and you're going to hear me, but I don't want to miss people's comments on YouTube. So yeah, that's where we're at. Yeah. So I double down. I'm doubling, tripling, all of it down on why Bad Bunny absolutely should not perform. I mean, I was clear on it 2 weeks ago. I was clear on it yesterday. And now I'm being vindicated in this sense. Steve Bannon just said, we're going to have ICE, i.e., we're going to terrorize Black and brown people coming to the polls, whether they're, quote, citizens or not. Because, yeah, how many undocumented people are like, yeah, let me just fake vote? It's been disproven in every, including mad conservative think tanks. The last thing undocumented people at this point are thinking is, on November 4th, I'm going to try to pretend to vote. Yes, I'm doubling down. My open letter to Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio, aka Bad Bunny. Benito, bueno. On Sunday night at the Grammys, you stood before the world and declared ICE out. Those words echoed through living rooms, detention centers, and the hearts of millions living in terror. You spoke truth to power in a moment when so many are afraid to speak at all, but words must become action. ICE is a domestic terrorist agency. There's no other way to describe an organization that is executing, maiming, detaining, and disappearing human beings, including 5-year-old children, on American soil. The conditions at the detention centers are rapidly deteriorating. People are dying, and families are being ripped apart. Both citizens and undocumented people, working people of all backgrounds, are being chased through their neighborhoods, beaten in front of their children, disappeared from their jobs, and murdered by agents of the government. You are set to perform at the Superbowl at Levi Stadium, but understand this: ICE will be outside that stadium. They will be in the parking lots, on the streets, at checkpoints. They will be hunting people while you perform ICE inside. How can you say ICE out and then take the stage knowing what awaits beyond the walls of the stadium? This is an inflection point in the history of this country. This is not a moment for performance. This is a moment for principle. You have the power to make a statement that will reverberate through generations. You took a brave stand when you chose not to perform in the United States, where ICE operates with impunity. As a Boricua, I am asking you, I'm pleading with you to remember who we are as Boricuas. And then I say, like Black Sheep said, you can get with this or you can get with that. You can get with ICE or the people. You could get with the NFL or the people. All I'm saying is, the choice is yours. The number of texts and DMs, mostly from men, telling me I'm jealous of Bad Bunny, that I wish I could be at that I want to be at the Super Bowl, that I'm not a working class person. Apparently I'm rich and I live in a mansion. I didn't know that. I mean, I don't think my husband knows that, who's working 2 jobs. That I'm a disgrace to the Puerto Rican community. That I'm mad light skinned, so I'm really not Black. One thing was like, I know where you live. And I was like, yeah, okay, dude, try to come up and where the fuck I live. Because you're going to see my husband from Flatbush and Rosa Clemente from the Bronx. But I've also had good exchanges, and my homie, Liberated Self, Antonio, who posted kind of the opposite way he feels. And what I was saying to him is like, this is good because we should be able to debate. Like, a younger generation needs to learn that you're debating issues. We're not debating each other. That you need debate. You need someone to give you the counterpoint because steel sharpens steel. So, but I had to block a lot of people because then they were also the other people who were like, nah, he shouldn't be performing. They were saying crazy things to them, you know? So look, it's an emotional thing. Like, all we have to say is like, there's a lot of feelings. There's a lot of emotions. Is Bad Bunny reading mine? Absolutely not. Okay. He's going to perform. He's going to have 12 minutes on that stage. What concerns me more is the amount of Puerto Ricans that are like, we just want to be seen by America in the world. I was like, I don't want that. No, I don't want white women gentrifying Puerto Rico. I don't want them to know the tradition of Bomba y Plena. Like, I'm more in my feelings around knowing that Bomba y Plena is going to be at the Super Bowl, when for me, Bomba y Plena is very political. And the pleneros that I know, men and women who I have followed, and when you see it, it's not some like we're just performing. It's African spirituality. It's resistance, right? No, I don't want people to know about Bomba y Plena. I don't want the unintended consequences of his residency, which is now more white people being like, yo, I could live in Puerto Rico 6 months and not pay taxes. They're rolling up with their banks, rolling up in people's houses, asking people where the deeds are, right? This is the Caribbean. These are elders. Ain't nobody got a deed, because in the Caribbean, you pass down that little house that you work for to the rest of your family. And now there's mad white people in Puerto Rico gentrifying. And there's also Puerto Ricans with means gentrifying, right? You got the cryptocurrency boys, Brett Brock, whatever, Brock Pierce, and then Logan Paul. Now they're in Vieques building a hospital for their quote little community. The average family of 4 people makes $33,000 a year in Puerto Rico. Our people are being forced out. Young people are being forced migration. Doctors are in forced migration. Hospitals are crumbling. Schools have been shut down. We don't have an electrical grid. Every other day there could be rolling blackouts in Puerto Rico. So for me, it's like, if you want to big up Bad Bunny, then know your history. Like, don't come to us who have actually read books and get all emotional about what? Playing in the #1 hyper-capitalist violent game that's going to have military flyovers before he performs. Puerto Rico right now is being reoccupied by the military. A 67-year struggle to close the naval unit in Vieques, Puerto Rico on Roosevelt Roads. I was there covering it when finally a 67-year struggle forced the U.S. Navy to leave Vieques. And I was there and I covered it and I interviewed Lolita LeBron. And now they want to reopen that. The only way the United States and Trump got Maduro and his wife was to go through Puerto Rico. And that's why the airspace was closed in Puerto Rico. So those fighter jets in Aguadilla could then help the operation in Venezuela that killed 32 Cuban security forces, 82 people on the ground, and captured him. That same plane came back to Aguadilla, removed him and Celia to put on the next plane going to the United States. And that picture with Maduro in the gray suit. Read an article called, "In order to get to Maduro, Trump had to go to Puerto Rico," where the author closes the article and is like, and the way I knew was he was holding a bottle of Niquina water, which is only sold in Puerto Rico. So people are saying ICE out. People are saying there was an invasion in Venezuela. People are saying Puerto Rico's being gentrified. We also know that particularly the feminist collective has been infiltrated. Article came out 2 months ago about how the FBI and the Puerto Rican police infiltrated specifically the feminist collective in Puerto Rico because of all their radical work. They're the ones that got Jose Joe to resign. So this is what happened, and I think it's a good thing. 2017, Maria ravaged Puerto Rico. Donald Trump went and threw paper towels. We were there, up here on the map. I put a collective of all younger people, Afro Latinx identified younger people. We were there for 11 days. We uncovered the truth about how many people were dying. We uncovered the truth about them storing bodies. We uncovered the truth about how many families buried their loved ones in the background because of the sheer amount of destruction, bridges collapsed, and all of that. We covered everything. But after Trump threw those paper towels, the entire consciousness of elders in Puerto Rico and in the diaspora changed, where they were like, well, fuck it. Like, he threw paper towels, we're going to do for self. People talk about mutual aid and self-determination. The best place to witness it is Puerto Rico. Next year is 10 years after Maria, a decade. And the organizations of radicalism, independence, self-determination, mutual aid, and coupled with Black Lives Matter, a whole new generation of Boricuas are embracing their Blackness, their radicalism, and their place in the historical resistance against 128 years, right, of colonization since 1898 by the United States. Bad Bunny in 2019, when the movement to get rid of Governor Jose Joe, because of scandals of money, as usual, being stolen, but also text messages disparaging LGBTQIA, young people in Puerto Rico, disparaging Black Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico, and disparaging, at that time, the mayor of San Juan, Carmen Yulín Cruz, who Donald Trump called a nasty woman. When we were covering it, there was one day where I legit turned around and Oscar Lopez Rivera was right there, former political prisoner. And he's like, we got work. He's like, but you got to do the work, but you got to keep telling people that you got to tell young people the history. They don't know anything. Particularly what he was in the diaspora, not on the island. Yes, so that's what I'm saying. Like, Bad Bunny, what he did in 2019, what Residente did by bringing him and himself to confront the governor at 2 a.m. in the morning, where then Bad Bunny was live streaming it. Bad Bunny had come off tour because Residente and other people were like, yo, we're about to get rid of this governor. There's 1.5 million people in the streets for days. Do you know how Puerto Rico is small to have half of the nation? Like, we in these streets, he has to go. I covered that too. And at the biggest rally where people were marching and then a day later he finally left, I got a quick interview with Bad Bunny. Because at first people didn't see him, but then when they saw him, young people, you could tell it was like their moment, like, oh, Yes, an artist for the people. Plus, he also put out a statement and said some stuff on local radio that he's with the people. And all I asked him is, why are you here? And he said in Spanish, tired of the colonialism, tired of the United States, we need to be free. 2019. Now, 7 years later, in less than 7 years, he has become the #1 global artist in the world. People are writing books, people are teaching classes, and then, of course, the Super Bowl. But on Sunday, if you say Ice out at the Grammys, look, my point at the end of the day is this. Him not performing will cement him in the historical radicalism and make him a legend in that way. People will remember more his stance than a 12-minute performance. Okay? I'm a social critic. I critique artists and I respect them just as much, right? All I'm asking us, especially Boricuas, is kind of calm down thinking that like this is the best thing ever that could happen for our people. Like I just find it very like fetishizing. Like I feel since his residency, there's a fetishizing of Puerto Rico, and I hate it because these same people that are loving Puerto Rico do not know anything about our current condition and how the United States government has tried to destroy our people. Yeah. So you can't tell me you love Lolita LeBron or the Pedro Albizu Campos and then be like, but yo, I'm like the Bad Bunny. Not only am I watching, I'm having a party, I'm buying everything Puerto Rican. That's what I'm saying. Like you see all these Boricuas, like you're going to Walmart to buy Puerto Rican flags. Like you're having a party and literally being like, this Super Bowl performance is going to finally let people know what a beautiful people we are. I don't need that to know what a beautiful people. Like, how are you even thinking that? Are you so insecure in yourself that you're like, this is what I'm going to show how Boricua I am? No, fam. No, I don't like it. I don't like it. I have no problem with anybody disagreeing with me. I will ask you, if anything, ask yourselves how many books you have read about our people from every perspective. No, I did that already, so we're good with that one. I am going to finish off on the course, the seminar. Yes, so okay, let me get into the seminar because a lot of people are beginning to respond. Okay, so I did this seminar in I think it was September and October, right? Antonio, I think it was like right, maybe October to November. But anyway, it's called the Black Puerto Rican Radical Tradition, Disrupting Anti-Blackness, Sites of Resistance, and is led by me. It's not just a seminar, as I say, it's a reclamation of our history, our power, and ourselves. Together, we can delve into potent and often untold stories, particularly of Black Puerto Rican resistance, spotlighting organizers, freedom fighters, and radicals and revolutionaries. You do not have to be Boricua to participate. You don't have to identify as Black anything. You could be. I got 2 white people that signed up. They were like, "Can I?" Absolutely. I'm a scholar. Like this, everybody should be knowing this kind of thing. So it starts on February 15. It's 5 consecutive Sundays. It's from 2 to 4 p.m. It's on StreamYard. All sessions are recorded and will be available to participants. The fee is $150. The topics are Black Puerto Rican identity, political resistance, 1898 to the present, racial affirmations, disrupting anti-Blackness, hip hop and sites of resistance, and public history as a tool for liberation. So even if the language could be a little wonky, as people would say, I'm a scholar activist. I'm not doing a seminar where you're going to have to learn 900 words that are used in academia that sometimes it's just too much, right? Like it's too much of this high academia kind of thing that I don't roll like that, right? But first, you don't have to buy books. I've created a curriculum. And in fact, if anybody hears from the first session, I'm going to be sending you the curriculum because you already attended. Unfortunately, I wasn't good at recording all the sessions in the first time I taught the seminar, right? But I am now, so I have somebody who took it already and is like, I want to take it again because I know it's going to be a little different. I was like, yeah, because I listened to the critiques people gave me. I tweaked some things, but ultimately the curriculum will be available to everybody. And I'm really proud of that. And I'm also very clear, very transparent that this is the work of my dissertation. So what I'm doing with the first seminar and this one, and when the last chapter of my dissertation is going to be like a sociological study in the actual aggregate information and the impact that this seminar has had on people. And I'm grateful to be in that line finally where I feel like, okay, this is a scholarship in the activism. So basically, look, right now I had just put something together because I was reading some people that were like, Puerto Ricans never resist. We don't do anything. We don't support or the struggles. And instead of me being like, what, all of that is so not true. Like, you think Puerto Ricans haven't ever been struggling or that they don't support others? There is not one, even in Minnesota, they ain't one rally in this country I've been to on many issues over 30 years where you never see Boricuas. We are always there. We are always there with our flags. We are always there to support struggles. And what I view when somebody says that is like they have very low self-esteem and they have a colonized mind. And part of what I'm doing with my seminar is decolonizing people's minds. I started off with how I had to go and learn shit, that I had to decolonize patriarchy and that Puerto Ricans never did anything and that all Latino women were good for was having babies and being on welfare and all our people were on heroin or crack. Like those are things that seeped into my mind when I was growing up. So then I begin to decolonize my mind and take Black psychology classes that taught me why the enemy wants us to think the way we do about ourselves and our own people, right? So listen, I just put this together. This is part of the curriculum, but this is very different, right? Look, from the moment the United States rolled up on the beach and colonized us, even before that, 30 years before 1898, under Spanish rule, El Grito de Lares still stands as the most significant armed uprising against Spain. The Nationalist Party, the Ponce Massacre in 1937, when United States military fired on peaceful nationalists marching, killing 19 and wounding over 200, 1937. The 1950 uprisings, a la Fortaleza, where the governor lives. And then I go in. Lolita LeBron and 3 other nationalists opened fire in the U.S. House of Representatives, wounding 5 congressmen. Their goal was to kill people, as it's known as revolutionary violence. I will be talking about that, including the vice president. Okay? Then they were incarcerated for over 30 years. Then movements, Los Machateros, the FALN, the Vieques struggle. Come on. The gag law. It made it a crime to own a display a Puerto Rican flag. You would be arrested. Until 1957, That's why people are like, why y'all always so about your flag? Because for a decade, we weren't allowed to fly it. And people were getting arrested for literally having a Puerto Rican flag in front of their house. It criminalized our identity. Then outlawed the flag. Then Las Carpetas, for decades, Puerto Rican police intelligence was working with the FBI. Nationalist Party Armed Resistance. Let's go. Keep going. Puerto Rican political prisoners. Oscar Lopez spent 42 years for his part in the revolutionary struggle to get the United States out of Puerto Rico. 11 political prisoners, Puerto Rican, before the Lolita and her 3 comrades were in there for almost 27 years. Then a new wave of Puerto Rican political prisoners. Oscar Lopez, people say Obama pardoned him. No, a movement freed him. But the last day of Obama's presidency, he pardoned Oscar. He had no choice, because the only reason he became who he is, Barack Obama, is because of the Puerto Rican movement in Chicago. So this I'm adding to it, you know, and what it shouldn't make everybody who's Boricua be like, hell yeah. You got to ask yourself, why has the United States done this to us? Imprisoned, assassinated, made us U.S. citizens, not by choice, sterilized 1/3 of the women. Filiberto Ojeda Rios, part of Los Machateros, was in hiding for 30 years. The FBI and Puerto Rican police found him. They tried to get him to come out, him and his wife. They assassinated him. And for, I think, 14 hours, his wife would not come out. Our solidarity with African Americans. Boricuas and African Americans were both U.S. citizens. Are we treated with that? And then look, right now, like really think about this. They're killing white people. ICE has killed white people. You think they get 2 Fs if Puerto Ricans and African Americans are, quote, U.S. citizens? Schomburg, who everybody talks about, was exiled as an independentista, which is how he came to be in Harlem and part of the Harlem Renaissance. How he is a Pan-Africanist and a Puerto Rican nationalist. Them, the young lords, right? Los Machateros, our solidarity with Cuba, our solidarity with Ireland. Ireland was sending weapons to Don Pedro Albizu Campos. There's a struggle. The IRA not only sent weapons, they funded the work of the Nationalist Party in Puerto Rico. Palestine, we got Boricuas right now that have been there on the ground every day. We got the young lords, we got Iris, you know, we got Mickey Melendez, Chacha, may he rest in peace. Richie Perez, may he rest in freedom. Pablo Guzman, may he rest in freedom. Luis Ocoso, may he rest in freedom. But we still, who are alive, Iris Morales is alive. Mickey Melendez is alive. Felipe Luciano is alive. Juan Gonzalez is alive. Denise Oliver is alive. Gloria Rodriguez is alive. Young lords. What they did. Women in the young lords. Women saying machismo can never be revolutionary. Then the Puerto Rican Socialist Party and Esperanza Martel. Come on, fam. We've been resisting. From the moment they came, we've been resisting. Have some pride, man. Like, stop letting white people or whatever internalized, colonized stuff from our elders, you know. Yeah, so I just put that together today. So now the curriculum is going to be about 50 pages. So I hope people who have questions, I tell you, DM me, email me. A lot of people are asking, can I pay $30 a week? Absolutely. And I wish I could do this for free, but I can't. I got to work too, you know. I'm just super blessed that this is the work. And that people would believe in me enough to be like, nah, you know, we want to learn from Rosa. Okay. So as I close out, look, fam, I was gonna like all these books, but let me see which way I could do it. Kind of like I got about 50 books. I've read every single one. Let me see. Y'all can't see it right now. You're like, Rosa, what are you doing? Okay. All of these books I've read. If you're Boricua, you got to tell me at least 2 or 3 books that you read. But what I will do is just pull out like 5 of them that I think if it's your beginning journey, for anyone that wants to know about Afro-Latinx identity, Puerto Rico, what it means and all of that. I think there's some key books that I definitely could show you real quick. Yeah, some very new books that have come out. I got friends who write books, which I love. Y después, let me see. Oh, yeah, I think these are all good. I just really want people to understand that the United States, as they have treated, like when the counterintelligence program started and J. Edgar Hoover was like the biggest national security threat to the United States of the Black Panther Party. The next one was the Puerto Rican independence movement. And all of this comes down to this. Without Puerto Rico and without the military bases, all the wars that they start can't happen. Because the United States has nothing in the Caribbean, but they have us. And that's why they keep us. Because we're a military outpost for all their wars, all their weaponry. Okay, I know. I have like 50. I'm not doing that much. But I just think it's important. So I want to pull out the one of so many. Oh, God. Okay, I got to stop. Okay, I got to stop. Okay. All right. Here we go. Everything I said about resistance, this is going to be the best one. Straight up. All the political and historical facts in Bad Bunny and his intentionality, he reached out to this professor called Jorel Melendez Vadillo, and his team was like, yo, can you just come? He read your book, break it down. So all the things that people saw in his shows, from the casita to all the images, is because this book is just straight up Puerto Rico. That's the right color blue, not the navy blue. I hate when people have the navy blue because that's made also in the US. But this is the right blue. So this professor from the University of Madison, Wisconsin, is the reason you see all the political stuff, which I think is dope because that's what scholars should be doing. And many of my comrades, right, we have politically educated a lot of artists, and that's what Jorel did with Bad Bunny. And I think that's amazing. This is fantastic. It's so current, so on point. The struggle to free political prisoners. This was written while they were still in prisons throughout the United States. This is how I read each one of their stories because each of them have their own chapter. Oh, so Babito, look, if you love hip hop, you know Babito and Stretch Armstrong, what they did for the culture. Babito's new memoir, I'm going to interview him next week, is dope. Babito's book of B-Ball, I love it. I learned so much about him that I didn't know myself. So that's New Yorkers from the Hip Hop Zone. I think it was published 30 years ago. Oh my God, I think we're really dating ourselves right now. Nope. 2003, which would be 23 years ago. To this day, it's the only book that talks about Puerto Ricans as co-founders of hip hop. especially during the 50-year anniversary 3 years ago, a lot of Boricuas were being left out. And I was like, we weren't participants. We co-created the culture of hip hop in the Bronx with African Americans and Jamaicans. This one's good. Okay, so historically, some of the first slave revolts in the Caribbean happened in Puerto Rico. Schomburg. There's a lot now being written on him, but I think this is still the definitive work, Diasporic Blackness. I love it. She kills it. I'm going to show you a bunch real quick of, I guess what people would say, militancy in Puerto Rico. Okay. I mentioned El Grito de Lares. And then this one, Militant Puerto Ricans, Migrants, Armed Struggle, and Political Prisoners by Professor Michael Cruz. Love him. He's always supported me. He is so deep. Like, militant Puerto Ricans, we exist. Policing Life and Death, Race, Violence, and Resistance in Puerto Rico by Marisol Lebron. She killed it on this. She really centering the protests at the University of Puerto Rico, but how, see, the thing that's triggering Puerto Rico, right, is that all the police are Puerto Ricans for the most part. So there's always that tension. Okay. Los Machateros, the Wells Fargo robbery and the violent struggle for Puerto Rican independence. Fam, I'm trying to make a movie on this one. I don't know how, but I gotta make a movie. Just because we only have had 2 documentaries on the Young Lords. Then La Operación that covered what happened when 1/3 of the women in Puerto Rico were sterilized. But the only movie, big movie, West Side Story, and then West Side Story again. Rita Moreno gets the Oscar. Ariana DeBose gets the Oscar of the most racist play and movie ever made. To this day, the first one and the remake are literally the only 2 major movies of that. Although Brownsville Bred just came out, and I think it had a good run. But what I'm saying is, it isn't, you got to think about it. Why would they make West Side Story again? For who, for what, and why? So every 50 years, they're like, oh, give a Puerto Rican an Oscar? Get the fuck out of here with that. Okay. Oh, here it is. The charges. Since the FBI called Los Machateros terrorists, the reporters camped out at San Juan's federal building, expected to hear indictments for murders, bombings, treason. Remember, Puerto Ricans are American citizens, or a plot to assassinate President Ronald Reagan. The charges should have been openly political, but instead of revolution, the 12 alleged macheteros were indicted for their supposed complicity in the 2nd largest bank robbery in American history, Wells Fargo. The government charged that when on September 12, 1983, a young Puerto Rican named Victor Guerana took 1,150 pounds of cash, $7.1 million from Wells Fargo, West Hartford, Connecticut vaults. He never acted alone. Cops, still in search of a solution, had to drop their Lone Ranger theories because the indictment said that Guerena, codenamed Aquila Eagle, was a machatero. While living in Connecticut, he received his orders from Puerto Rico in the lot. Instead of financing the good life in Rio de Janeiro, would fund the Puerto Rican independence movement. That's what the prosecutors contended, using the government's indictments of August 30, 1985 as a point of departure. This book chronicles the story of a robbery that turned into an expropriation, the story of a college dropout who was secretly a revolutionary, the story of a group of Puerto Ricans who call themselves freedom fighters but are labeled by terrorists by the FBI. And finally, the story of an island handled ignorantly could easily become America's Northern Ireland. That $7.1 million was never found. It went to movements. All right. So yeah, that's our radicalism. I encourage everybody. These are the two newest books. This is a collection of Puerto Rican feminisms. Jessica Babon is incredible. She's a professor. She's now president of the National Women's Studies Association. I have an article. There's over it's long, and there's over 50 of us in this book. Puerto Rican feminism. And then big up to my girl Vanessa Dia and her co-author Petra for PFR Bad Bunny. I got it in Spanish, it's in English. And see, this is what I'm talking about. I want people to read this book. Okay, let's read it. Let's talk about it. It's excellent. Excellent. They're going all around the country. So that's just some of them. And then Willie Perdomo. We got environmental justice, Pan-Africanism, and then Free the Land, the Republic of New Africa, and the Pursuit of a Black Nation State. Free the Land, Free Puerto Rico. Okay? So, yeah, thank you. That was an hour and 15 minutes. I appreciate everybody. Now there's nothing, nobody has an excuse. And yes, I have a lot of friends who have also read all these books. Okay? Yeah. So again, thank you. I still believe Bad Bunny should not perform. I also know he will be performing. I also know that the next day, I have been asked to come on BBC, which I'm doing, and then Telesur, which I'm doing, and Canadian CBC Broadcasting, which I'm doing. So yes, I will be watching it. And I will probably have critiques. And then I will also be like understanding that, you know what? Antonio, you said it too in your comment. People need 12 minutes of joy. And I know that those 12 minutes aren't going to be joyful. So it's not an either or. We can do both at the same time. Every one of us, including me, live in a contradictory state in a country because this is where we're at, So I just really want people to kind of like, of course, all the greatest revolutionaries are guided by love. But you have to sometimes just like take a minute and yes, be in your feelings, but there are just a lot of things that are not debatable. And the biggest thing, we were fighting being controlled by Spanish people. Indigenous people got decimated. Africans were brought to cut sugar cane. We finally win. We cube our freedom from Spain. A year later, the United States makes a choice. They were either going to, after the Spanish-American War, take Cuba or Puerto Rico, and they chose Puerto Rico because they said there were more, as they call them, negros, and we can control them better. There's more blancos in Cuba, we might not be able to control them the same way. And they came in 1898 and they haven't left. Okay, so we're talking about 128 years of resistance, and there'll be resistance until we are finally given the dignity of becoming free and then going to the United Nations, a decolonization process, and then we can join the international world as a free country. Okay, and also DM me or ask me anything about the seminar. Okay, so I hope I answered everybody's questions. Everybody on YouTube, favorite book. Yeah, I got the Puerto Rican Slave Revolt book. Pun is definitely my top 10, maybe in 5. Yeah, I mean, the fact that 30 years we're still like, Boricua, Morena. I'm like, that was an intervention in hip hop itself. Is he the guy who ended up in Cuba? No, in Cuba would be William Morales. He and Assata Shakur and Nahanda Abiodun. Nahanda passed away. Assata has passed away. William Morales is still in Cuba and will probably be there for the rest of his life, like Assata and Nahanda Abiodun were. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. Like I said, you can DM me, email me, clementerosa@gmail. I appreciate y'all taking this time. Stay strong. Understand that these people are going to try to like cancel these elections. I think the chaos is still going to rule supreme, and every artist needs to be speaking out. I'm sure Bad Bunny is going to be speaking out. And you know what? Green Day's performing. I don't know which one. I was like, oh man, come on, Green Day. But they do have a global audience, so maybe people will see that and be like, oh, yo, you know what? I want to get down with some organizing and movement things, right? So like I said, two things could be true at the same time. All right. Thank you, everybody on Instagram Live. Thank you, everybody who came on this. I appreciate you all. Hit me up. Peace. You know, Instagram Live. Oh, can I hold? I didn't hold them up. But Andino, look, you go to my YouTube page right now. The whole show is there. So you can fast forward and kind of see them. But I also have a list of them that I'm going to share tomorrow. I'm just going to make a list and make that on Instagram so that everybody could really see everything. You know, I know a lot of folks I'm seeing here, what folks had a question about the seminar. So I hope I answered them all. Yeah. Okay. So like I said, I'll make a list of all the books and put them up tomorrow so people could see them. But if you just join YouTube, just know, Instagram, that you can go to YouTube and watch it. You could go to Jackson Rising YouTube, either for obviously rerun the live, and Facebook as well. All right. Pa'lante siempre pa'lante, fam. Peace.